Good afternoon, dear friends, dear followers. We're glad to see you, and today we will talk to the head of the Russian house in Valletta, Irina Pereverzeva. Irina, hello. Thanks
Hello.
for finding the opportunity to talk to us and answer relevant questions. So I think we can start. As far as I know, the Russian house in Valletta has a great history. So can you please tell us in detail about its appearance there?
Good afternoon, dear friends. We welcome you in Russian house in Valletta, and we are very glad that you are today with us. Russian house in Valletta appeared here in 1990, and it was outstanding event, outstanding decision for both of our countries, for Malta and for Russia, of course. Because, you know, Malta and Russia, they sometimes coincide in opinions, sometimes no, but still they have a lot in common together. And now our center is situated in one of the most important and most interesting buildings of Central Valletta. I'll tell you just a few words. Just imagine that we are situated in the very center of a capital city, and we are surrounded of buildings and historical objects which have a lot of interest during the ages of history of Malta. For example, one of our neighbors is Ministry for Foreign Affairs. The second one is Church of Our Lady of Damascus, which is decorated with the icons by Georgy Maltsev, one of the students of Great Rapin, and where the icon of Our Lady of Damascus is preserved. And I think that you know that there are three so-called twin icons, which are related in their history, in their appearance. I mean, the icon of Our Lady of Damascus, which is now in Valletta, Our Lady of Jerusalem, it's occurred that it is from Jerusalem, and Our Lady of Vladimir, which is now in Russia. So we are linked all together. The next neighbor of ours, it's a Royal Opera House. A Royal Opera House on stage of which famous Prince Natalia Putyatin, the founder of Maltese Ballet, produced and showed her dance evening. And also Grand Master's Palace, where the allegory portrait of Catherine the Great is now preserved. So this portrait by Levitsky was a diplomatic gift to the Grand Master of Ragan from Catherine the Great. It was very interesting story of the time because a Grand Master sent to our empress a branch of olive as a symbol of new victory of Russia. This new victory of Russia was in 1783 and means that Crimea became the part of Russia. And as a gift, of diplomatic gift, the empress decided to send to Malta her portrait, in which she appeared with this particular olive branch. And also there is very interesting detail at this portrait. I mean that there are the appearance of Malta and Crimea, and between them there is a rainbow. So I think this gift is stresses, and it also showed the link between Malta and Russia. And of course, not far from us, there is so-called Russian, Russian house in Valletta. I mean, the place where a lot of Russians just gather. Maybe you hear a little bit of music, and I use my earphones just because we are always in music. Not far from us, there are two top best restaurants and touristic places. So we are always with music, we are always with fun. And also we can see from our center the Grand Harbor, where the first Russian, Boris Sheremetyev, made his first steps on Maltese rock. By the way, when the Maltese people want to welcome you, they rather rare say, welcome to Malta. They say, welcome to the Rock. So today I also can tell you, welcome to the Rock, welcome to our center, which is outstanding by its history, because before us, it belonged to famous Sir Oliver Sparky, the secretary of Grand Master de Valletta. And you know that Valletta is named after its builder, Grand Master de Valletta. So if we are talking about the heart of Valletta, it's somewhere not far from us, with Grand Master Palace and with St. John Cathedral. But if we are talking about Russian heart of Valletta, it's here in our Russian house, in our center. Maybe because of that, we have very specific person who is here with us every time. Because according to Maltese legends, the ghost of Sir Oliver still lives with us. And there are two hosts in Malta, the host of White Lady, she lives not far from us in Virgo, and Sir Oliver, who is always with us. So that's why a lot of people want to see our center, and nearly every day we have visitors, the tourists, who just come and tell, is it true that there is a Russian cultural center? Yes, sure, you can see it. And is it true that you are all from Russia? Yes, we are from Russia. And is it true that Russians even try to take our horse? No, no, your horse belongs to everybody. So Oliver, it's our common treasure. Please come to us. Please have a look at our center. And sometimes some of tourists, they even decide to sing something for us, to dance for us. So we have even a now small, but I am absolutely sure that it will be bigger and bigger. We have a collection of videos in which our tourists, our visitors, they present themselves for the Russian Cultural Center.
Definitely, our representative office in Malta has a great and interesting story of creation and location. But how did you become part of the Russian House team in Malta? Can you please tell us about your professional journey?
You know, when you are over 60, it means that you have a long professional journey. And to tell about every part of it, it takes a lot of time. So I just tell you some words, you know, there is a prefix X. So in my career, there is a lot of X, because I am ex-musical teacher, ex-university professor, ex-deputy of regional parliament of Kostroma region. It's a region in the north of Russia, not far from Moscow, 300 kilometers. Ex-mayor of my native city, Kostroma, and just not far from our subject, because I am so proud that I was born in Kostroma. I had an opportunity to serve to my native city for such a long period of time as a deputy, as a mayor. So, but after that, also, let's go to X. I'm ex-member of the national delegation of the Council of Europe, ex-president of the Institutional Committee of the Council of Europe Chamber of Local Authorities, ex-member of the group of independent experts of Council of Europe. So it was my background before Россотрудничество itself. But when I was, I became a part of Россотрудничество team, I was sent to my first mission to Kazakhstan, Almaty. It was an outstanding experience for me and for my family, for my parents who accompanied me in this mission, for people with whom I made acquaintance. And I was so charmed by splendid and rich Kazakhstanese culture that, you know, sometimes I still continue to use Kazakhstanese words in my language, in my communication. And by the way, when I came to Malta, the first Maltese word, which I just heard, it was mela. mela. And I heard post, how nice, how interesting, because mela in Italian, it's apple, mela. So Almaty is Alma Ata, is father of apples, or sometimes it's also called Apple Town or Apple City. And I thought, oh, so how nice. From Apple City, I arrived to Apple Island. But it occurred that in Maltese, mela does not mean apple. Mela means that, for example, do you want to do it? You don't, oh, mela, let it be. Maybe, sometimes yes, sometimes no. It means everything you want. It depends on your attitude to this word, attitude to the process. So mela, 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 mela. And you know, my mission here is a very interesting one because there are a lot of languages used in Malta. And it's very nice that 3 or 4 languages which are used in Malta, I know. I mean, English, Italian, French. I speak a little bit Spanish, but it's not so important. And sometimes I even understand Maltese, because Maltese is very complicated, but very interesting language, which combined in itself a lot of Eastern and Western words because of rich history of Malta and rich influence from different parts of the world because of Maltese nights, because of, because of travelings, because of a lot of sailors who arrived here, etc., etc., etc. So if someone asks me, how did you become a part of a team of Russian House of Valletta? Sometimes I think that all my previous path, all my previous background was just for coming here and to understand how close are we all in this world, that we are all in the same boat, or as they say, at the same rock, like this.
So you have such a great professional background and experience. Touching upon the cultures of Russia and Malta, do these 2 countries have something in common?
You know, it's easy, it's complicated simultaneously. Because when we compare huge Russia and small Malta, huge Russian population and 5,000 people, 500,000 people of Malta, that's all. But still, their cultures have very much in common. And the first one is the polyethnical of this culture. We began to speak about languages of Malta. So 4 languages are used absolutely equally in Malta, but not only them. There are a lot of Russian speakers. There are a lot of, Arabic speakers. There are people from all over the world, and each nationality, all people, they bring a piece of their culture to the Maltese soil. Because now it's impossible, for example, to imagine Maltese culture without Russian influence. I mean, Prince Putatin, she was outstanding ballet dancer, and she created the first ballet school in Malta. And now this tradition is continuing. So this is the Russian influence towards Maltese culture. And I think also it's very important to understand that, we have in common a lot of things. I mean, in our history, in our relations toward life, in our, legends, fairy tales, and so on and so forth. By the way, I took a book, A Journey Through the Centuries, Historical Discoveries in Russian-Maltese Relations. It was edited by Elizaveta Zolina, the first director of our center. It was outstanding figure. And in this particular book, she gathered a lot of information about Malta and about Russia, about Maltese culture and Russian culture. And I think that without this book, it's impossible now to imagine the culture and the science of Malta. So it's also our link with Maltese culture. And I think also that, maybe it's a little bit step back or step aside, but when children come to our classes, at first we make acquaintance with their parents. And we ask their parents, what are you waiting from us? What do you want from us to do with your children? To make for your children, to explain your children. What do you want? Please just write several words. And most of them, they just write down that, please try to find something in common. Please look for common features in our lives, in our lifestyles, in our fashion, in our history, in our country, language, and so on and so forth. That's why we created several programs which are aimed to show this similarity in our cultures. For example, for me, one of the most interesting of this program is the Legends of Monster Marvel Whale. Перевести на русский это «Легенды рыбы-кит». Marvel Whale, it's рыба-кит of Russian. I'll show you the map of Malta again from this particular book I have shown you. So when you see it, you understand why this program is called like this. Because just looking at the map of Malta, you understand where this magic monster Marvel whale can live. So, and our children, they are, with the help of, scientists, Maltese and Russian, with the help of fashion designers, Maltese and Russian, they just try to understand the link and similarity of these cultures. For example, the similarity of legends, the similarity in fairy tales, in seasons, in weather, in proverbs, and in toys, even in toys. The most, I think that for me, the most interesting lecture was dedicated to Maltese and Russian toys, which were produced from food. You know, when I was a small girl, my father made figures from bread for me because I did not like bread. And he produced some figures, he produced some small sculptures. And after that, I've eaten it. Now I think maybe I was a little bit not polite for these figures, but still I've eaten them all. So in Malta, there are also a lot of toys, but which are produced from beans. So, but the same story, the parents try to do something interesting, something extraordinary for their children. And that's why we are also making some program as literary delight. What is it, literary delight? In Russian, it's литературное варенье. But to translate the word варенье, it's jam. You know, that is double meaning of jam. That's why we decided to use the word delight. And we made several programs dedicated to Russian authors and their, preferences in delights. I mean, in jams, in marmalades, and we try to find if there are some stories in Malta. Yes, we found that, maybe that Turgenev, he was fond of raspberry jam. But in Malta here, there is a small town which is called Mjar. And this Mjar is regarded as a capital of strawberries in Europe. So together with the local council of Mjar, we made a program dedicated to this particular case. We found the recipe of Turgenev's mother, how she produced this delight, and we made it. We made it together. After that, we made a program, we made a film, and even we translated for the first time Turgenev in Maltese language. So a lot of links exist, but sometimes we can't see them, but they are on the surface. It's possible to look, it's possible even to touch. For example, there is a very interesting place which is called Bastion. It's a place where a lot of outstanding persons were buried, including our Navy officer, Schlippenbach. So there is a small bitter oranges garden. And we also found out that bitter oranges and bitter oranges marmalade was so much delighted by Leo Tolstoy. And now we are in the process of creation of a new program of making a new literary delight of bitter oranges. And we are waiting for January when the harvest of bitter oranges will be. By the way, don't you know what is bitter oranges?
No.
Bitter oranges, we call it pomeranцы или горькие апельсины. It's impossible to eat themselves because they are bitter. And the only way of taking it and for making something good from them is to make a marmalade. So there is a very old recipe of Sofia Andreevna Tolstaya and also the old recipe of Maltese nights. And just imagine, they are practically coincide. Where is Russia and Sofia Andreevna Tolstaya? And where is Malta and Maltese nights? But still, there are links like this. Did I answer your question?
Yes, of course. Thank you. If we look at Russian and Maltese culture, we can find really lots of things that are similar, and I think it's really great. And do Maltese people have any stereotypes about our country?
Let's be honest. Not many Maltese went to Russia and had an opportunity to look Russia from inside. And the most information they have there from videos, from films, from our program, by the way, from BBC broadcast. It's everything for them sometimes. And still they have stereotypes. The only stereotype what I heard in Russia, in all other Europe, and this stereotype that doesn't exist in Malta, that bears are in the streets of Russia. They never tell me about that. And also that we drink vodka every breakfast. You know, this is the only stereotype I never heard here in Malta. But there are a lot of stereotypes which are well spread all over the world. For example, Russians are eating too much. All the Russian cuisine is very heavy, very peasant, and it's it's not like French, it's not like Italian. It's something unimportant. Just very. You know, for me, it's very important to show people that stereotypes are stereotypes, nothing more. And if you want to know what is Russian cuisine, please visit our pelmeni party, kisel party, pancake party. And if after that you can take that the Russian cuisine is something unimportant, you will never come to us again. And I want to stress the return after it, because it's very interesting. This is, first one. The second one, while Russia is very huge and has a lot of climate differences, and while Russia has Siberia, it means that all Russians are not afraid of cold. They can survive in every temperature, in every circumstances. Unfortunately for us, it's not like this, because in Malta the temperature in winter is +8, +10. In Russia, as a former mayor, I can tell you that in Russia, in such temperature, we even do not start our heating season. But in Malta, it's very humid. There is no central heating at all, in principle. All the floors are made of stones, and everything is made of stones. And the lack of timber, you can understand, because rock is rock. There can't be forest, can't be a lot of timber. That's why everything is so, you feel yourself like in well, in maybe in stone box, which is wet and which is cold. So, but still they believe that we can survive in this temperature without fur pajamas as they wear and sleeping without hats as they do sometimes, really. So these stereotypes, unfortunately, is just stereotype. And also they sometimes say that all Russians are very rude. Why? Because after every word, we do not add please. And we show our respect, our gratitude, our good attitude with our intonation. But intonation in Malta, in Maltese language, is a little bit different. That's why they say, you never smile, you never tell please, because they do it in, well, after every 3-4 words. Please, can you give it to me, please? Is it like this? Please, 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 please. And we try, of course, we try to ruin this stereotype because we invite our guests and we always smile. We smile to them because they are to understand that we Russians, we are open-hearted. We are charming person in the long run. Why not? We are. And well, to continue of course, the stereotypes of golden passport holders. But I think I better do not stress on it because I am not a golden passport holder and I can't ruin stereotype that all golden passport holders are very pretentious. So like this. So they are the stereotypes, but you are to understand that all our life and all our work, it's aimed to present Russia itself and our people and our culture in the best way we know it. And we also want that the whole world, the small Malta, all the visitors from different countries which come to our center, they all understand that Russia is a great country. Russia is beloved country. And Russia is a country of extremely interesting, different, and outstanding culture. It's my opinion.
So I think that the stereotype that Russians are often sad, maybe, or rude, and the second stereotype about our weather are very popular all over the world.
Yes.
Yes, and many foreigners think like that. So, touching upon the work of the Russian House in Malta, what projects are implemented? What are the main projects that are implemented by our representative office?
We called them programs. Programs which are dedicated to very specific or very particular dates or themes or items, or well, sometimes historical facts or even anecdotes. Talking about this year is the 55th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations between Malta and Russia. That's why a lot of things, a lot of events which were combined, they were dedicated to this very particular fact. And we tried to use unusual forms, such as quiz, such as karaoke nights when we sing Maltese and Russian songs. When we we are shooting the film dedicated to Russian exiles. We combined a program telling about the history of our diplomatic relations. And I can stress that with the help of this book I have shown you, it's rather interesting and it's rather easy, because a lot of brilliant facts, a lot of outstanding events, they are publishing here, they are described here. Very interesting program for me, personally for me, was the Russian poetry in Maltese. You know, Russian is maybe the only language with which Maltese language has no dictionary. There is no Russian Maltese dictionary and Maltese Russian dictionary. The only thing that it is a so-called short dictionary for students, which was made by Russian interpreter Yana Psaeva. And our great thanks and gratitude to Mrs. Psaeva that she also became the first person who translated Russian verses, Russian lyrics, Russian verses into Maltese language directly. Because even Pushkin was translated into Maltese from English variant. So the first attempt to combine Russian and Maltese versions of poetry, they led us to a special program on our YouTube channel when we explain, when we talk about these poems. And of course, these verses in Maltese and Russians, they are pronounced, declamated. So it's, for me, it was outstanding. Outstanding background and outstanding opportunity to understand how all it works. Also, there is a very interesting program dedicated to the 18th anniversary of so-called Battle for Malta. I'm not sure that all our followers know that Malta was also involved in the Second World War. And you know, in Maltese society now, there are two absolutely different and trends which contradicts to each other. I mean, that one part of Maltese historians, Maltese society, they said, it was not our war. We were just a colony, and no one asked us if we want to take part in this war. That's all. And the second part says, no, Maltese people are heroes, because Malta is very often is compared as Mediterranean Stalingrad and Mediterranean Leningrad. Why so? Because Malta was severely bombed during the 1942. Just imagine that this particular island lost 7,000 people, while the population of Malta of that time was less than 500,000, more than 2% of civil population within the year. And to preserve themselves from this particular barbarian, bombing, they digged so-called underground Valletta. So Valletta exists not only on the surface, but also underground. Why I'm talking about in such details? Because with our students and volunteers, we visited these particular shelters. We study the history of communication of Maltese and Stalingrad operations, because they have a link, a very clearly link. And by the way, I'm not sure, maybe, you know, yes, this is very interesting. The diaries of a Spitfire pilot. So this book shows us all what was in Valletta at that time, like this. It was Royal Opera House. So for us, it was very interesting. And at this time, we decided to find a person who can be a symbol of this time. And occasionally, we made acquaintance with a British gentleman whose mother, when she was 18 years old, just imagine, 18 years old, she was an interpreter in British headquarters here. Because she was Maltese, she knew a lot of languages, and she was an interpreter. Her name was Gladys Sprott, and she left for next generation her diary from the Second World War. So for us, it was very interesting to understand what was the attitude of Maltese youth of that time to all the events which had opportunity to be happened. And also, you know, for us, it was very interesting to find the artists, Russian and Maltese, who partly are dealing with this situation. with their creative work. So it was outstanding program for me, especially because my graduation paper was dealing with Lend-Lease during the Second World War. So I had an opportunity to just to refresh my memory and to refresh all the knowledge I have taken from my university. The next interesting for me, and I hope that for all of participants, program is the Crossroads of History. It's such points in the history of Russia, Malta, and all over the world where we were in the same side or maybe sometimes in the opposite sides. So it's the history of Turkish wars. It's a history of well, Russian Emperor Paul the First, who was regarded as Maltese Knight, you know, and the story when he invited Maltese Knights to live in Gatchina, not far from St. Petersburg. And so it is very interesting program for all of us to understand that all people are more connectable and more coincidable together during the different periods of life and different periods of history. We have also several programs for children and for their families, for their parents, so-called family programs, such like Ecology of Creativity. We have also choir, which is now, well, sings Soviet songs, because our next program is dedicated to the 100th anniversary of the Soviet Union. So it's very interesting, and for me is one of my beloved programs is Peter Assembly. You know that 350 years ago, Peter the First or Peter the Great was born. And with the visiting on several Maltese parts, we are trying to reconstruct the parts of Peter the First history. For example, you know that Maltese Knights, they not only built Malta, not only, well, rebuilt ships, they created the first hospitals and a lot of things, but they brought a lot of plants to Malta, like Peter the First, who brought a lot of plants which never cultivated in Russia before. He brought them to Russia and created first water houses, first so-called pharmacy gardens, and so on. And we visited the gardens of Maltese Knights, and we tried to find the plants which were brought to Malta and to Russia practically simultaneously. And what was the result? For example, aloe was brought to Malta and to Russia, but aloe now in Russia, we are cultivating in pots in our homes. But here in Malta, you can see it everywhere. And so I think that such well way of understanding, of learning, it's very useful for young generation. It's interesting. And by the way, what is more important? All of these programs are dealing with Russian language. Our participants speak Russian during these programs. For example, when we reconstruct Peter's Assembly, when we construct with our fashion designer, our compatriot, Elena Folman, when we design the dresses, traditional dresses for Peter's Russia and after Peter's Russia, when we created with the girls, they all speak Russian. What does it mean? It means that they can communicate in Russian not only with the teachers and inside the family, they can communicate Russian with each other. It's very important for all of us.
And
I think like this.
Great. And is there a demand for Russian among local residents? And what and how can they start learning Russian language? I mean, what conditions are created for it, and what age group usually visit the courses?
You know, our Russian courses, I can I can, well, you know, I can express my great respect to our teachers team, because every year our courses, in spite of everything in the world, they are continuing and even spreading and even become more and more popular. And I think it is because of attempts of our team create not only the lessons for children, the lessons for adults, the lessons for students, but to create an atmosphere when and where people can communicate with each other. As I have mentioned, we made a program, Ecology of Creativity. What does it mean? We decided to think about it during our Russian lessons. Because when one time I came to Russian language lessons, I saw how small girls and boys, they are communicating with each other inside the classroom during the lesson, and everything is okay. But as far as they leave the classroom, they began to speak English. I ask you, why are you speaking English while being in Russian Cultural Center? They said, it's easier. Yes, it's easier because they are breeding in English-speaking community. That's why we decide to make for them drawing lessons, workshops, choir, musical lessons. We create for them all these programs, all these projects, and the only thing they are to do is speaking Russian during these programs. That's all. If you want to come, please learn Russian. And now I can tell you that now more and more young and small young generation or representatives of young generation and small children, they want to learn Russian just to be a part, to participate in these programs. Because the choir, the team leader of the choir is Olga Agafonova. She is outstanding choir specialist. The team leader of paint section is Irina Kuznetsova. She finished Stroganov Academy. Just you can imagine. So the fairy tale section, the team leader is Anastasia Oreshnikova. She is outstanding specialist in this part. She's doctor of philology. Maria Samut-Kabanova, doctor of philology. So the ladies are outstanding, the team leaders are outstanding. And that's why the program are interesting. And if the program is interesting, every person wants to take part in it. And if you want to take part, please learn Russian. The circle is combined like this. And that's why in our courses, there are a lot of students of Maltese University who starts learning Russian in university, and they at university and come to us. There are people from so-called bilingual families when one part of the family, for example, father is Maltese and mother is Russian. So they want to speak Russian, and their children like this.
So the idea to speak Russian during different languages helps children to completely plunge in the Russian atmosphere, Russian environment. Yes. It's a great idea.
Thank you. So pleasant you tell it.
So what events are the most interesting for local residents?
You know, I'm not local resident, but I think that I can judge because of a lot of people who came for this program, and they're telling us that thank you, thank you, thank you. I think that the most interesting project for them was one of them. I'd like to mention first. It's Cosmos Band. Cosmos Band is musicians from different countries: Russia, Malta, Turkey, Germany, and Serbia. And the leader of this band is Maxim Ryzhakov, our member of the team of Russian Cultural Center. And with the cooperation of local council of SWE, they created this band. They have the rehearsal here. They have concerts here and in the SWE local council. And the most important thing that now the basement of their programs is Russian. They play Russian music, Russian songs, Russian popular music, Russian jazz even. And they even took part in several international competitions and they took their awards. And we are very proud that this program, this project is dealing with our center. The second event I can mention, I think that is the Slavonic Days. Slavonic Days, which were prepared together with Serbian community. That's why the concert which united Russian, Bulgarian, Serbian community, it was called Slavonic Brother. And during the gala concert, we had a lot of opportunity to understand how close are our countries, how close are our cultures, how interesting is when people in Malta gather to sing Russian songs, to sing Serbian songs. It was outstanding performance and outstanding event. And I mentioned the Peter Assembly because now there are a lot of young representatives of young generation, well, and sometimes even adults, and sometimes even aged person who came. Let us be here because we want to understand what's going on. What are you doing? Yes, please, if you want to speak Russian, if you even can pronounce several Russian words, be part of ours. Be part of our assembly. Why not? Because Peter the First, the great Peter the First, he created assembly to gather people, to make them understand that they can communicate. So we can communicate. Join us. Let's like this.
And what event, in your opinion, has received the greatest response for this year, for example?
Oh, the concert of band Cosmos I have mentioned, and I also say that the fashion show, Russian fashion show, which was made in cooperation of organization of disabled models, disabled people. It was in a very specific place of Malta, Villa Monte Cristo, historical, well, cultural, well, just very beautiful place where Russian, Maltese, Italian, professional and non-professional models, they show collection of Russian costumes. I think that you can go to our YouTube channel and to see how it was. It was really very, very interesting. A lot of costumes, they are folk costumes. And the other part was created by Elena Foreman. I was told you about her. So it was very interesting. And I also would like to mention an event and an exhibition, Time, Space, and Palmyra. It was not our event, but it was exhibition of Russian painter Galina Troitskaya and Henry Alamango of Malta. They created marvelous images of Malta of the past and Malta of present. And we organized a meeting with these painters, which was attended by students of Russian boarding school, Malta Crown. It was a Russian event, Russian evening at this exposition, at this exhibition. It was so interesting to understand the parallels between historical process and historical preservation of historical heritage in Russia, in Malta. How does it work? How it helps people to communicate with each other, how it helps people to understand their past and to prognose their future. So it was very interesting. I think that we can mention this event also.
And what are the plans of the Russian House in Valletta for the near future?
Near future, you mean the week, yes? Like
yes,
this.
of course.
Okay, I'll take my list because I don't want to miss anyone. Okay, within nearest 7 days, Cinema Club, Peter the Great, Ecology of Creativity Workshop Autumn, Choir Mucha Tsikatucha, Festival of Theaters from, well, all over the Europe, Russian speaking theaters. So the shows Umka Puppet Show, Yemelia, Umka Puppet Show from Malta, Yemelia from France, Bear by Chekhov from Latvia, Yeralash from Germany, and also online shows, workshops, and discussion clubs. It's within next 3 days. After that, pub quiz, Sabantui, because you know there is a lot of people from ex-Soviet well republics such as Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and so on. So we gathered in EV House and to reconstruct their homes. We prepare plov, we prepare shish kebabs, we sing national songs, we dance national dances, and of course we have quiz dedicated to the Turk, well, republics of Russian Federation. Festival of Organ Music, Mussorgsky by Organ. So the, well, postgraduate of Moscow Conservatoire, Joseph Lia, is at the head of this festival. Around the World with a Fairy Tale, it's our program to Russian-speaking children. God Worlds Through the Eyes of the Children, it's exhibition of our contest organized and dedicated to the day of the icon of Our Lady of Kazan. Well, and after that, Unity Day of Russia. So this is the follow 7 days. The follow 7 days, so we work like this.
The program of the Russian House on the next week will be very active and interactive.
Yes, we try to supply our followers with all the information about Russia, about Russian culture, Russian stories, about what are Russians and what are all the nationalities who lives in Russia. Because, you know, when we were talking about the similarity between Malta and Russia, it's necessary to stress. In Russia, we have more than 100 languages. In Malta, they have more than 5 languages in use. So we have a lot of influences of national cultures to our national Russian, big Russian culture, so like Maltese. And our aim is to show how clear, how close we are, in spite of the fact that we are living on a long distances from each other, but our hearts are very near. So I think that all these events, it's just a possibility to show it. Like, well, we are open, our doors are open and we are open-hearted.
Mm-hmm. And do we have an opportunity to travel around the Russian House today and feel its atmosphere?
With my great pleasure. I just may change the, it's necessary for me to change the spectacles because there is a lot of sun out. So at first I must find the button. I found. Okay, we are leaving my study. By the way, during the times of Maltese Nights, this study was a bedroom of Sir Oliver Sparky, like this. And now we can see our corridor, which is decorated with the paintings from Russia. And of course, this corner is dedicated to Paul I. because we all know and we all remember that within his reign, several weeks or several months, Malta was regarded as a province of Great Russian Empire. No, it was. So also we have the paintings, and we are going to the library. We are going to the library. We are going to the library. Here we are. Our library is rather big. We have a very good collection. We have a lot of books, of films, and so on. But I would like to show you this particular thing. This is a painting by Anastasia Pache, a Russian Maltese artist. She presented us this painting like a symbol of our literary tea parties. Look at this picture, please, attentively. And you see that we have tea. Everything is ready for tea in Russia. We see samovar, pots, and so on. But the fruits are Maltese. The portrait of lady is in Maltese costume, and the plants are also Maltese. So it's a kind of symbol that Malta and Russia, we are together. And when we are all here in our library for our so-called book reading programs, when we read books to each other, when we discuss them, or in our literary tea, when our students watch films, we explain them new expressions from films and so on. There's the place where all these projects are. Okay, today now our center is nearly empty because in 2 hours the rehearsal will start and all people come because now it's just a small restive time. And I have an opportunity to show you everything. And now we are going to classrooms. Yes, this is classroom for small children. That's why you see this house in which they play while studying Russian. There are the books, so everything is ready because the classes will start at 4:30. And this is my beloved map of Russia. You see how nice? So we see all the costumes, we see nations, we see our towns, we see our cities, well, minerals and so on. It's, well, our beloved country and beloved map. And this map is, well, also showing that in spite of the fact that there is Malta, you look, Malta, small point, and there's Russia, we're still together, we're still ready to make friends with each other. Let's go for the fourth. Because you know, in Malta, we in Russia have a habit that all the buildings are flat. Here it's impossible. So there are many floors in every, like this, in every building. We have 6th floor in our center. So like this, here we are. There is a conference room. Well, and this is exposition of the most beautiful country. Very nice pictures of Russia. And this is temporary exhibition also of Anastasia Pache, whose painting I showed you in the library. Here we are. There is our scene. There is our, well, there is our piano. Слышите? Do you hear how it's
Yes.
nice? Yes, nice voice of this instrument. And here everything is ready for rehearsal. So it's for our choir. Let's go upstairs. But now we are to use the lift. And now we are going, there are the preparations for festival, so the costumes are prepared. Oh, this collection is very interesting. I explain you what is it. In Malta, there are a lot of bands in which the musicians play different music, and especially such as valse, marches, and so on. And our member of our team, Mr. Maxim Ryzhakov, he is very often invited. By the way, this is his instrument, waiting for a master. So, and every time when he is invited, it's necessary to have a tie as a belong to this orchestra. So we can count how many orchestras did invite Maxim Ryzhakov to play with them. 1, 2, 3, 4, the same, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Not so, well, not so little, just so many orchestras. This is the place where we have rehearsals, musical rehearsals, where we have sometimes some events, such as plein air of Russian and Maltese artists, painters. And now you see our flag. I can make it. I think that now, after I come back, it will be a problem with connection. So I'd like to thank you for inviting us to be a part of this very interesting program, which is telling all the world about our cultural centers, about us, about our team. If after I leave the roof, it won't be connection. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Irina, for such a great story about the activities of the Russian House in Valletta, and such a great excursion around our representative office. We invite our compatriots and local residents to the Russian House. There you will find creative projects and interesting events that you will definitely like. As for us, we will continue to follow the Russian House in Valletta on social networks, and we advise our followers to subscribe if they don't want to miss the latest news.
Thank you.
So we wish our representative office in Malta, the Russian House in Valletta, good luck. Goodbye.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.